Okay, today I am reading Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I don't know if that's the way of in which you pronounce Capote, but I'll just pronounce it that way. So there is no, there are three stories. I thought it was only one, but actually there are three of them. There are also 42 pages. So I'll start reading House of Flowers. Ottilie should have been the happiest girl in Port-au-Prince. As Baby said to her, "Look at all the things that can be put to your credit." "Like what?" said Ottilie, for she was vain and preferred compliments. Compliments? To pork or perfume. "Like your looks," said Baby. "You have a lovely light color. Even almost blue eyes and such a pretty sweet face. There is no girl on the road with steadier customers, every one of them ready to buy you all the year you can drink." Utterly conceited, conceit, started, stopped, conceit that this was true, and with a smile continued to total her fortunes. "I have 5 silk dresses and a pair of green satin shoes. I have 3 gold teeth worth 30,000 francs. Maybe Mr. Jamison, or someone will give me another bracelet. But Baby," she sighed, and could not express her discontent. Baby was her best friend. She had another friend too, Rosita. Baby was like a wheel, round, rolling. Junk rings had left green circles on several of her fingers. Her teeth were dark and burnt 3 stumps, and when she laughed you could hear her at sea. At least so the sailors claimed. Rosita, the other friend, was taller than most men, and stronger. At night, with the customers on hand, she minced about, lisping a silly dog voice, but in daytime she took spacious, loping strides and spoke out in a military baritone. Both of Ottilie's friends were from the Dominican Republic, and considered it reason enough to feel themselves a cut above the natives of his dark country. It did not concern them that Ottilie was a native. "You have brains," Baby told her. And certainly what Baby doted on was good brain. Baby told her, and certainly what Baby doted on was a good brain. Oh my god, I've read that twice. Ottilie was often afraid that her friends would discover that she could neither read nor write. The house where they lived and worked was rickety, thin as a sleepily. I'm going to mark that one for later to check the pronunciation. And frosted with a fragile Bungambilium balconies. I never read such a long word, whatever. Though there was no sign outside, it was called the Champs Elysees. The properties are spinterish, smothered-looking invalid, viewed from out on the steps room. I'm going to read that again. The properties are spinterish, smothered-looking invalid, viewed from an upstairs room, where she stayed locked away rocking in a rocking chair and drinking 10 to 20 Coca-Colas a day. All counted, she had 8 ladies working for her, with the exception of Ottilie. None of them was under 30. In the evening, when the ladies assembled on the porch, where they chatted and flourished paper fans that beat the air like delirious moths, Ottilie seemed a delightful, dreaming child surrounded by older, uglier sisters. Her mother was dead. Her father was a planter who had gone back to France, and she had been brought up in the mountains by a rough peasant family. the sons of whom had each at the young age lain with her in some green and shadowy place. 3 years earlier, when she was 14, she had come down for the first time to the market in Port-au-Prince. It was a journey of 2 days and a night, and she'd walk carrying a 10-pound sack of grain. To ease the load, she'd let a little of grain spilt out, then a little more. By the time she had reached the market, there was almost nothing left. Ottilie had cried because she thought of how angry the family would be when she came back home without the money for the grain. But these tears were not for long. Such a jolly nice man helped her dry them. He brought her a slice of coconut and took her to see his cousin, who was in the preparatories of the Champs-Élysées. Ottilie could not believe her good luck. The jukebox music, the satin shoes and choking men were as strange as marvelous as the electric light bulb in her room, which she never tried go again. Ottilie could not believe her good luck. The jukebox music, the satin shoes and joking men were as strange and marvelous as the electric light bulb in her room, which she never tired of clicking on and off. Soon she had become the most talked of girl on the road. The proprietaries was able to ask double for her, and Ottilie grew vain. She could pose for hours in front of a mirror. It was seldom that she thought of the mountains, and yet, after 3 years, there was much of the mountains still there. The wind seemed still to move around her. Her hard, high haunches had not softened, nor had the soles of her feet, which were rough as a lizard's hide. When her friends spoke of love, of men they had loved, Ottilie became sulky. "How do you feel if you're in love?" she asked. "Ah," said Rosita with swooning eyes. "You feel as though pepper has been sprinkled on your heart, as though tiny fish are swimming in your veins." Ottilie shook her head. If Rosita was telling the truth, then she had never been in love, for she had never felt that way about any man who came to the house. This so troubled her that at last she went to see Hungan, who lived in the hills above town. Unlike her friends, Ottilie did not tack Christian pictures on the wall of her room. She did not believe in God, but many gods, of food, light, of death, ruin. The Hungan was in touch with these gods. He kept their secrets on his altar. Altar? Could hear their voices in the rattle of a gourd. Could dispense their power in a potion. Speaking through the gods, the Hungan gave her this message: "You must catch the wild bee." The wild, not the wild. "You must catch the wild bee," he said, "and hold it in your closed hand. If the bee does not sting, then you will know you have found love." On the way home, she thought of Mr. Jameson. He was a man past 50, an American connected to the engineering project. Them gold bracelets chatting on her wrist were presents from him, and Ottilie, passing the fence snowy with honeysuckle, wondered if, after all, she was not in love with Mr. Jameson. Black bees festooned the honeysuckle. With a brave thrust of her hand, she caught one dozing. Its stab was like a blow that knocked her to her knees, and there she knelt, weeping until it was hard to know whether the bee had stung her hand or her eyes. It was March, and events were leading toward Carnival. At the Champs-Élysées, the ladies were sewing on their costumes. Ottilie's hands were idle. Ottilie's hands were idle, for she had decided not to wear a costume at all. On rara weekends, When drums sounded at the rising moon, she sat at her window and watched it. I'm going to mark Rara, never heard of that. Go again. On rara weekends, when drums sounded at the rising moon, she sat at her window and watched with a wondering mind the little bands of singers dancing and drumming their way along the road. She listened to the whistling and laughter and felt no desire to join in. Somebody would think you were 1,000 years old, said Baby, and Rosita said, Ottilie, why don't you come to the cockfight with us? She was not speaking of ordinary cockfight. From all parts of the island, contestants had arrived bringing their fiercest birds. Ottilie thought she might as well go, and screw a pair of pearls into her ears. When they arrived, the exhibition was already underway. In a great tent, a sea-sized crowd sobbed and shouted while a second crowd, those who could not get in, thronged on the outskirts. Entry was no problem to the ladies from the Champs-Élysées. A policeman friend cut a path for them and made room on a bench by the ring. The country people surrounding them seemed embarrassed to find themselves in such a stylish company. They looked shyly at Baby's lacquered nails, the rhinestone combs on Rosita's hair, the glow of Ottilie's pale earrings. However, the fights were exciting and the ladies were soon forgotten. Baby was annoyed that this should be so, and her eyes roved about searching for glances in that direction. Suddenly she nudged Ottilie. Ottilie, she said, you've got an admirer. See that boy over there? He's staring at you like you were something cold to drink. At first she thought he must be someone she knew, for he was looking at her as though she should recognize him. But how could she know him when she'd never known anyone so beautiful, anyone with such long legs? Little ears? She could see that he was from the mountains. His straw country hat and the walnut blue of his deck shirt told her much. He was a ginger color, his skin is shiny as a lemon, smooth as a guava leaf, and the tilt of his head was as arrogant as the black and scarlet bird he held in his hands. Ottilie was used to boldly smiling at men, but now her smile was fragmentary. It clung to her lips like cake crumbs. Eventually, there was an intermission. The arena was cleared, and all who could crowded into it to dance, and step while an orchestra of drums and strings sang out carnival tunes. It was then that the young man approached Ottilie. She laughed to see his bird perch like a parrot on his shoulder. Off with you, said Baby. Oh, right, that peasant should ask Ottilie to dance, and Rosita rose, missingly to stand between the young man and her friend. He only smiled and said, Please, madame, I would like to speak with your daughter. Ottilie felt herself being lifted, felt her hips meet and gaze his to the rhythm of music, and she did not mind at all. She let him lead her into the thickest tangle of dancers. Rosita said, Do you hear that? He thought I was her mother, and Baby, consoling her, grimly said, After all, what do you expect? They're only natives, both of them. When she comes back, we just pretend we don't know her. As it happened, Ottilie did not return to her friends. Royal, this was the young man's name, Royal Bonaparte, he told her, had not wanted to dance. We must walk in a quiet place, he said. Hold my hand and I will take you. She thought him strange, but did not feel strange for them, for the mountains were still with her, and he was of the mountains. With her hands together, and the iridescent cock swaying on his shoulder, they left the tent and wandered lazily down the wide road. Then, along a soft lane, where birds of sunlight fluttered through the greenness of leaning acacia trees. have been sad, he said, not looking sad. In my village, Juno is a champion, but the birds here are strong and ugly, and if I let him fight, I will only have a dead Juno. So I will take him home and say that he won. Ottilie, will you have a dip of snuff? She sneezed voluptuously. Snuff reminded her of her childhood, and mean as those years had been, nostalgia touched her with its far-reaching wand. Royal, she said, be still a minute. I want to take off my shoes. Royal himself did not have shoes. His golden feet were slender and airy, and the prints they left were like a track of a delicate animal. He said, how is it that I found you here, in all the world here, where nothing is good, where the rum is bad and the people thieves? Why do I find you here, Ottilie? Because I must make my way, the same as you, and here there is a place for me. I work in kind of a hotel. We have our own place, he said, on the side of a hill, and there, at the top of a hill, is my cool house. Ottilie, will you come and sit inside it? Crazy, said Ottilie, teasing him. Crazy, and she ran between the trees, and he was after her, his arms out as though he held a net. The bird, Juno, flapped its wings. Crowed flew to the ground. Scratchy leaves of fur and moss thrilled the soles of Ottilie's feet as she lit it through the shade of shadows abruptly. Into a web of rainbow fur, she fell with a thorn in her heel. She winced when Royal pulled out the throne. He kissed the place where it had been. His lips moved to her hands, her throat, and it was as though she were almost drifting lips. She breathed the odor of him, the dark, clean smell that was like the roots of things, geraniums of heavy trees. Now that's enough, she pleaded, though she did not feel that this was so. No, I read it again. Now that's enough, she pleaded, though she did not feel that this was so. It was only that after an hour of him her heart was about to give out. He was quiet then, his stickly hurt head rested over her heart, and she said to the gnats that clustered about his sleeping eyes. Shush, she said to Juno, who pranced around crowing at the sky. While she lay there, Ottilie saw her old enemy, the bees. Silently, in a line like ants, the bees were crawling in and out of a broken stump and stood not far from her. She loosened herself from Royal's arms and smoothed a place on the ground for his head. Her hand was trembling as she laid it on the path of a beast, but the first that came along tumbled onto her palm, and when she closed her fingers it made no move to hurt her. She counted 10, just to be sure, then opened her hand, and the bee, inspiringly arched, climbed the air with a joyful singing. So she's not in love with this boy. The proprietaries gave Baby and Rosita a piece of advice. Leave her alone. Let her go. A few weeks and she will be back. The proprietaries spoke room in the house. The proprietaries spoke in the calm of defeat. To keep Ottilie with her, she'd offered the best room in the house, a new gold tooth, a Kodak, an electric fan, but Ottilie had not wavered. She had gone right on putting her belongings in a cardboard box. Baby tried to help, but she was crying so much that Ottilie had to stop her. It was bound to be bad luck, all those tears falling on a bride's possession. And to Rosita she said, Rosita, you ought to be glad for me instead of standing there wringing your hands. It was only 2 days after the cockfight that Royal shouted Ottilie's cardboard box and walked her in the dark toward the mountains. going to mark this word. When it was learned that she was no longer at the Champs-Élysées, many of the customers took their trades elsewhere. Others, though remaining loyal to the old place, complained of a gloom in the atmosphere. Some evenings there were hardly anyone to buy the lady's habit. Gradually, it began to feel more doubtfully after all would not come back. At the end of 6 months of Perpétries said she must be dead. Oh my god. How many pages left to finish this story? Oh, a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 pages to finish this reading. I'll keep going later on.